Hey guys, Realtor Adele, your favorite realtor and investment property strategist. Welcome to the monthly housing market report where we discuss home prices and appreciation, mortgage interest rates, housing affordability, and current real estate trends. We also take a look at the economy, the job market, rate of inflation, and whatever else may be going on globally or politically that may impact the way we buy and sell real property. With increased inventory and talks of a recession, in this month's report, we take a look at how the housing market is impacted as a result. Let's begin. Before we dig into home prices, home sales in Metro Atlanta increased by 1.7% in March. April's numbers are not in as yet. However, I suspect a similar sentiment. Post-winter season is not unusual to see increased home sales as potential home buyers tend to wake up with anticipation of warmer weather. Speaking of home sales, homes are sitting on the market longer due to increased inventory. This isn't unusual. Spring-summer is when the majority of home owners sell or put their homes on the market for sale. Another reason homes are sitting on the market longer is the fact that mortgage interest rates are still higher than expected, making home ownership unaffordable for a lot of people. Regardless, it never fails whenever there is a shift in the market. We tend to be bombarded by clickbait type headlines such as those seen on the screen or on the slide. I'll reference a few of them. Wells Fargo warns worrying housing market indicator is at level not seen since the Great Recession. Another one, recession will destroy homeowners. Another one, America's new homes inventory reaches highest level since 2008. What about the one to the lower right? 6.1 million Americans are behind on their mortgage, the highest in 20 plus years. Brace for impact. I want to dissect these a bit. First off, the 6.1 million Americans behind on their mortgage. If you read the fine print, it refers to multifamily property. So duplexes, triplexes, all the way up to large apartment complexes or apartment buildings. Most apartment buildings or large multifamily properties have multiple owners. So there's that. I'm assuming all of these owners are included in the 6.1 million. The relevant information is almost illegible. However, the headline is magnified, of course, for attention, right? That's their job to kind of create headlines for shock factor or to get a reaction. Again, I don't know what's true, what's untrue. My point is try not to be reactive when reading headlines like this or hearing about things like this. First off, go to the source. This article tends to be sourced from Freddie Mac. So in this example, I would go to Freddie Mac, locate the article, and verify the details for myself or for yourself. What else? The other one I want to dissect. Let's move on to the next statement. New home inventory reaches the highest since 2008. The fact that we're now new home inventory, they're talking about newly built homes, so new construction homes, new communities, new subdivisions. The fact that we're now in 2025 and okay, it took 17 years for inventory to catch up, which tells me that collectively the industry is being more responsible, right? Because there's not an oversupply of inventory. So if it's taken 17 years for inventory to balance out, I personally feel that that is a good thing. Many moons ago, I worked for a new home builder, so I worked in new home communities. So back in the day, when potential home buyers visited the community, there would be spec homes already built. So there would be a variety of homes pre-built in anticipation that they would be sold. Post 2008, home builders have taken a different approach. They've been more strategic. And now, or post that, potential home buyers would have to go through the process of selecting a lot, selecting their floor plan, and then putting down a significant amount of earnest money before that builder will begin construction. So, with that strategy, that definitely alleviates overbuilding or having an oversupply of housing inventory just sitting on the market. So, it alleviates overbuilding. The next statement that was made: recession will destroy homeowners. Did you know that over 48% of Americans own their home free and clear? So recession will destroy homeowners. This is implying that there will be a slew of foreclosures during an economic slowdown. With that amount of homeowners owning their home free and clear, that's half of the problem that's alleviated. So please note that I'm not saying that as the year unfolds, things won't get bumpy, because no one has a crystal ball. We don't know what the market will do. I'm simply saying whatever decision you make sure that you are doing so from accurate data. So read the fine print, right? Find the real source and verify whatever that headline is telling you, because more times than not, there is more, not just more beyond the headlines, but there are significant details that's not provided. A lot of these headlines are created for shock factor. And I think the majority of us realize that by now. I'll see you on the next slide. Here's a look at what happened with home prices during the previous recessions. This chart breaks it all down. In 1980, home prices increased by 6.1%. In 81, prices increased by 3.5%. Things went in the opposite direction in 1991, and home prices decreased by 1.9%. 2001, home prices went up again, this time by 6.6%. During the greatest recession of all times, home prices drastically dropped by 19.7% in 2008. Fast forward to 2020, during the onset of the pandemic, home prices increased by 6%. Historically, a recession does not mean falling home prices. Americans are sitting on tremendous equity. 68.6% have paid off their mortgage or have at least 50% equity as of Q3 of 2024. If homeowners with a healthy amount of equity and are facing foreclosure, there's the option of selling the property and satisfying the mortgage, thus avoiding foreclosure. As a result, during a recession, there isn't likely to be an astronomical amount of foreclosures on the market as seen in 2008. The amount of housing inventory on the market plays an important role during an economic slowdown. If money isn't circulating, the last thing consumers are going to do is buy a home. Not only because it may be out of reach financially, but because there are other priorities. Let's take a look at the housing inventory today in comparison to the inventory on the heels of the 2008 recession. And this is referencing new homes, so newly built or new construction homes. The top of the chart reads, number of new homes on the market reaches highest level since 2009. This statement is indeed factual. And what you're looking at, this chart backtracks to January of 1999, and references each January census, measuring and notating the amount of inventory for new construction homes. Let's jump to 2009. There were over 180 newly built homes sitting on the market following the housing crash. Clearly, there is a significant difference or increase during 2008, 2009, even 2010, in comparison to the years leading up to that. Now, based on data during this time frame as well, the amount of new home inventory on the market was the highest it had ever been historically. The years following that, we can see how inventory levels declined to the point where we had the opposite end of the spectrum. In 2015, the amount of new construction inventory on the market had dropped to below 40,000 units. So naturally, there's a cause and effect scenario that comes into play. We have a massive amount of new construction inventory during an economic turndown that resulted in the opposite of that. So much so that once the pandemic hit and there was basically a mad dash to secure a home that could satisfy both work related and personal needs, and the market was unable to readily provide a solution, hence the increase in new construction homes we've seen in recent years. Currently, or as of February 2025, there were 119 units of new construction home inventory on the market. If the gauge is to avoid that 180 units that we saw back in 2008, 2009, then those units, of course, they added to the oversupply and collective downfall during that time. I would like to believe that current day new home builders are monitoring this data and are continuing to be strategic in an effort to avoid overbuilding. Here's a look at inventory trends region by region. The blue bar shows year over year how much inventory has grown. The red bars are the pre pandemic years. In the Midwest, inventory has grown 18%, however, was down 45% between 2017 and 2019. In the South and in the West, leading into the pandemic, inventory was down 7 and 9% respectively. Overall, there was a deficit of inventory prior to 2020, which further proves that after the Great Recession, new home builders were not overbuilding. During an economic slowdown, if there is not an oversupply of homes, then likely there will be no housing crash. Here's a more defined look at inventory levels. The yellow line is 2025, red is 2020. Let's use it as a divider. So pre pandemic years are above the red line, post pandemic years are below. The dark green represents 2024, light orange 2023, orange 2022, and the bright green 2021. To date, there's been about a 17% increase in listings or inventory compared to last year. As of March, inventory has not surpassed pre-pandemic inventory count. We'll continue on the next slide. This is the same slide as the previous one with a consideration of a 10% increase in inventory. If that's how the remainder of the year plays out, we still would not have surpassed the pre pandemic inventory levels. Let's take a look at housing market trends in Metro Atlanta, starting with single family detached homes. Pending sales were 3,793. Closed sales 3,411. Days on market 45. Average sales price $562,301. Sellers are currently receiving over 98, or they are receiving 98.6% of their asking price. Month supply of inventory 3.5. As for attached homes, pending sales were 1,108, closed sales 994, days on market 49, average sales price $413,723. Sellers are receiving 98.3% of their asking price. Month supply of inventory 5.1.
If you have a home or investment property that you're thinking of selling, or if you're curious about its current value, scan the QR code for an instant estimated valuation. The results are based on a combination of actual home sales within a certain radius of your home or property. Since the platform knows nothing about the condition of your home or if you've made any updates, the suggested value may be a bit off. However, you do have the opportunity to make adjustments within the app. That said, it gives you an idea of your home's current value. If you're interested in a customized home valuation, please contact me directly and I'll be happy to provide that for you.
Although a recession doesn't automatically mean falling home prices, the opposite is true when it comes to mortgage interest rates. During an economic slowdown, rates tend to lower in an effort to stimulate the economy. This chart references the previous recessions and shows how rates were impacted during those times. Homes are sitting on the market longer due to increased inventory and higher than expected mortgage interest rates. Talks of a recession have been swirling around in the headlines. Instead of being reactive, be proactive and find the source of that data so that you can verify the information for yourself. A recession does not mean falling home prices. 4 out of the last recessions, home prices actually increased. However, during a recession, mortgage rates do tend to decrease. The amount of housing inventory on the market during an economic slowdown ultimately determines a housing crash. Of course, versus the amount of home buyer demand, so ready, willing, and able buyers. Well, so we have quarter three. In quarter three of 2024, 68.6% of Americans have paid off their mortgage or have at least 50% of equity in their home. A recession isn't likely to result in an excess of foreclosed homes that's reminiscent of 2008. Inventory has increased by over 17% in comparison to last year. However, there is not an oversupply since there was a deficit during the pandemic years or pre-pandemic years. The average sales price for a single family home in Metro Atlanta is $562,301. Days on market is 45. Month supply of inventory 3.5. Average sales price for attached homes $413,723. Days on market 49. Month supply of inventory 5.1. Home prices are expected to appreciate this year by an average of 2.7%. And as of May 1st, rates for a 30-year fix were at 6.76%. As always, it's my goal to provide you with accurate information from trusted sources so that you can make the best decision for yourself and your family. If you found value in anything I've shared, please do me a favor, like this video, hit that notification bell, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future videos. Thanks so much. See you on the next one.